fishing, it's in my soul.
Welcome to the Salt Strong Podcast, disrupting fishing entertainment as you know it. Prepare to laugh. Prepare to get to know fishing legends in a whole new and unfiltered way. And on occasion, you might even learn a thing or two about fishing. Here's your host, Joe Simons. Like diamonds.
The top 3 don'ts, like the things not to do for newer Christians. Hey everybody, Joe Simons, like diamonds, up here bright and early recording this one. I recently did a podcast on the fishing side of things here at Salt Strong, talking about the top 10 don'ts for newer anglers. And what was interesting is it got a ton of downloads, like one of our most downloaded podcasts of the year, and also a ton of views on YouTube. And it was interesting because it got a lot of attention from newer anglers, and it also got the attention of experienced anglers who were making sure they weren't making those mistakes. And if they were, hey, maybe this is a good time to go back to the mechanics, if you will. And it got a lot of feedback. And so I said, gosh, I should probably do one for Christians, because there's been a couple things on my mind. And this is from a couple of conversations I've had with, some friends who do consider themselves Christian, but have really they've been disgruntled, I guess, and hurt by the church in particular, and are really struggling with their overall faith. And that's a shame, right? Because that's not how it should be. And so this podcast is for both, because really the two types of people that listen to this, there's Christians, and there's a lot of people who are struggling with Christianity. And there's also a lot of people who are just kind of curious and maybe went to church as a kid and maybe got burned or maybe got bored or whatever it might be. And they're kind of on the fence and just they're wanting to know more. And so I'm doing this mainly for the people who are early in their Christian faith and maybe seeing some bad habits from other Christians out there on social media and all over the place, and are saying, hey, is this really what we're about? And the answer is no on a lot of this stuff. And so I hope this is going to be a helpful one. Let me just start off by the first one is never put rituals over love. Christianity in general, especially, from starting at the Catholic Church and all the way down, because they're the biggest out there, it's very centered on rituals. There's nothing wrong with rituals. There's a reason we have rituals. There's a reason we have rituals at Thanksgiving and Christmas and all these things. But the one that I got tagged in a lot here recently, and it brought it way up in the limelight, was just how we can literally hurt ourselves as Christians. And this is not how all Christians act, by the way, but you hear a story like this, it gets blown out of proportion, and everyone all of a sudden says, oh gosh, man, all Christians are like this, and I don't want anything to do with it. And I think this hurt our cause so much. And the story was this, if you missed it, there's a Catholic reverend who had been doing baptisms, and this guy's been, a full-time priest, if you will, for over a decade and a half. And for 8 years, he said one wrong word while he was doing baptisms. He said I instead of we. So he literally said one wrong word in the kind of the script that you have to say. It's the ritual for a baptism, right? And now the Catholic Church, this guy's lost his job. So now he's humiliated and he's literally has no job. And number two, just as bad, maybe worse, and I was shaking my head reading this thing, was that they went now and nullified. They basically said that all those baptisms for 8 years didn't happen and had no value, no merit. So now all these people are getting alerted, right? These now I'm guessing young adults who 8 to how many years ago got baptized by this guy, now saying, hey, your baptism didn't really happen. The guy messed up one word, and so it didn't count. You're not baptized, right? I mean, can you imagine as a parent if you got that call or email or however they're notifying people, or even just happen to read the article, and you'd be shaking your head, almost losing a little bit of faith in the church. Like, what are you telling me that nothing matters now just because a guy messed up a word? And I believe that's when the church in general, and just Christians in general, can make a massive mistake by putting way too much emphasis on a ritual over love. I don't believe if Jesus was here and messed up a word by doing a bad, or John the Baptist, right? I mean, there weren't scripts back then. This was based on love. This was not all about the rituals. And I think in so many cases we can put rituals over love. So I want to tell all of you newer Christians and hopefully soon to be Christians that that's not how all Christians act, and that's not how you should act. Yes, rituals have a place; they're certainly important, but don't put it over love or even doing the right thing. And I'm praying that the Catholic Church will revert this, but that's just one of those things where I can only imagine all the atheists and the people. There's so many people that want Christianity to fail. And I'm sure they were just hooting and hollering, saying, "Oh yes, score one for us." It made the church in general look so bad, and it made it look like all we cared about was rituals and not actually loving on people. The other the thing not to do, even if you see other Christians doing this, is to be hypocrites and to be not accepting. Yes, there are certain things that the Bible says that we should and shouldn't do, but we were all sinners. We've all been sinning, especially if you're an adult. You've probably been sinning for many, many years. None of us are perfect. We all have different things that we struggle with. And yet we like to pick on something that, we read in the Bible and just say, "Oh, well, these people are worse than all of us because of this." And that's the number one thing that especially this younger generation is, these millennials are saying that they don't want to be associated with Christianity. They don't want to go to church, is because in general, Christians are hypocrites and not accepting. That does not mean all of them are, but there certainly are a lot of them are. There's even some churches who I believe have been pretty hypocritical and not accepting. I recently watched the first 2 seasons of The Chosen. If you haven't seen that, by the way, amazing. It's the story of Jesus and his disciples, and just incredibly well done. It's completely for free on Amazon Prime now, and I know they have an app that's free. You can download it in the App Store and stream it anywhere. But the one thing that stands out big and bold from almost every single one of the episodes is that Jesus was nothing but accepting. He was not hypocritical, right? And we've heard the stories in the Bible about Jesus hanging out with, at the time, tax collectors were considered horrible people, right? He was hanging out with the worst of the worst, essentially, some of the people that we might look down upon if we saw them, walking up to our house or into our business or even into our churches, right? And shame on us for being hypocritical and not accepting of everyone. That was just so very clear that Jesus loved everyone, and he actually was putting more time into the people that we're probably less accepting of, right? And he said it. He's like, who needs a doctor, right? The sick or the healthy? And obviously the answer is the sick. And that's why Jesus focused on them. And so I would urge you to do as Jesus did, not as maybe how you see some other people handling it, even if they call themselves Christians. We were not called to ever be hypocritical, and we were not ever called to not be accepting. We were called to be loving. The third one is, don't get too political. I do believe that we're called to vote. I certainly believe that we're called to try to get the best people in power, right? And we want to have great Supreme Court justices and all of these things as Christians, and we want them to uphold the Constitution, all the things that we've put in place, and to be able to freely worship and to go to church and to love God and to still have God be part of our nomenclature in schools and 10 Commandments and all this great stuff. But I also think there's a line that so many Christians cross, getting way too political, that goes back into being hypocritical, not accepting. And I'm not going to get down this rabbit hole because I don't want to talk about politics on here, but you know what I mean. And I believe that just someone who's curious about Christianity and is really exploring their relationship with God and with Jesus, and if they went online for any amount of time and read some of the comments from some so-called Christians about some of the political stuff, it leaves a bad taste in your mouth. And I think we can get too political. Let's go back to what would Jesus do, right? Certainly Jesus got political back then. I mean, he was giving it to some of the Pharisees and some of the I guess the people in political power, if you will. But that doesn't mean we need to be doing that on social media. It's social media in places that are public. It is not a win for Christians in general if we're just sitting there bashing anyone who disagrees with anything we think is right. We need to go forward with love, and we need to go forward with truth and grace. It can't just be all truth, right? The Bible is truth. We can't just lead with the Bible and just say anyone who doesn't follow every single rule in here is wrong and you're a bad sinner, because we all struggle with those things in there. But we can also go with grace, which is just being too nice and just saying, all right, everything's fine. We'll settle and we'll back down and we're just going to be too nice. You need to go with truth and grace. And I mean, there's a whole book written about that by James Emery White, which is amazing about. That really is the answer. And that's what Jesus did. I mean, if you watch that Chosen or read the Bible, I mean, he led with both truth, right? He with the word, and also with grace and with love and compassion. And I think those are three of the things that I see today that are scaring some people away from being Christian. They're scaring some people away from Jesus, even though Jesus is not the problem. We are as human beings, because we are sitting there in our loudspeakers saying things that we probably shouldn't say and are not really in love. Right? I mean, some of the things that come out of our mouth, some of the things that come out of my mouth, and the reason I do these podcasts is to hold myself accountable. Right? I mean, there are so many things that we can improve upon ourselves before we try to start going out there and bashing other people and trying to be hypocrites and not accepting and being so focused on these rituals. We did our ritual right, so it doesn't matter about you. We got to lead with love. So if you are new to Christianity or working on becoming a Christian or curious about it, just know that everything you see out there is not how all Christians are. And if you do become a Christian or newer Christian, don't follow the footsteps of people who might be doing it a little bit wrong and maybe need to look in the mirror or just use the old filter. What would Jesus do here, right? That's a great one. Is what would Jesus do? And if you haven't seen The Chosen, it's so neat because, the Bible is amazing. You can read about all these stories. And The Chosen is the first time I've seen it. It's captivating. You can't stop watching. Like, I binge watched 8 episodes in a row, like literally without getting off the couch at all. And I was just like, wow. And you get to see, like with Matthew and like that was something I didn't know that much about him. And some of his struggles. And I mean, every single one of these disciples had massive issues and were sinners. It was just so neat to see. Like, man, these guys were just like us. And in my case, they were fishermen. And it was, I don't know, it was so cool. Such a neat way to basically understand the Bible and understand Jesus and how he spoke to people and how he reacted and how he loved and how he was so accepting. So I would highly encourage you to read that. I think it'll give you a whole new perspective on the Bible and on Jesus. And it'll also just teach you how to do it right and be able to put yourself in his shoes and use that filter of, all right, what would Jesus do in this situation? How would he handle this? How could he get political and do it in truth and grace and not do it just bashing people and ridiculing them? That usually does not work. So hope this was helpful. If there's some that I missed, I'm sure there are. These are just 3 that were on my heart this morning. And I prayed about this and I'm hoping it hits the right person, the right people. And if you have any questions on this or things that I missed or didn't cover well, let me know. I'm always trying to get better with these. And if there's any certain topics you'd love to hear about, let me know. My email, joe@saltstrong.com. That's joe@saltstrong.com. Otherwise, I will talk to you on the next episode. Love you guys. Have an amazing day, an amazing week, an amazing year, and lead with love.
'Cause fishing, it's in my soul, it was pain.